All right, so hi guys. It's been a long time since I recorded one of these, couple weeks. Well, I recorded them and then my phone was being wonky and wouldn't actually upload the videos. I'm still working on that. Anyway, um, and then I got unexpectedly busy, and then I got unexpectedly lazy. Literal days of doing nothing, which definitely won't be the case in a couple weeks when we go back to school. Anyway, I have been reading, obviously, so I wanted to catch you up on the stuff that I've been reading and make some recommendations. So, the first thing that I finished reading was The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. If you are into fantasy, but sort of a darker fantasy, then The Cruel Prince will be a good one for you. The main character's name is Jude, and she and her sisters were perfectly normal except for Vivian, her oldest sister, who has sort of pointed ears with tufts of hair and cat eyes. And the reason that they find out that she's not normal is because she's not normal. She's actually a fairy. And Vivian and Jude's sister, whose name I'm blanking on at the moment, they get taken by Vivian's her red cap father back to fairyland, and that's where they grow up. Jude is she really wants to be, a part of the fairy world. She has different things she thinks she'd like to do. She'd like to be a soldier or a guard, but she's actually pulled into the fairy court's sort of political intrigue because the king is going to name an heir, and the three princes are, well, let's just say they have differing opinions about who should be king. So she aligns herself with one of them as a spy. And the thing is that I can't get into too much about it, but a whole lot of the fairy world is not what she thought it was. There's backstabbing and viciousness, and she just has to decide what it is that who it is that she's going to be loyal to. It's a series, so you can read, more than one of them. I'm not sure I'm going to pursue the series. We'll see. But that's one of the books that I finished in the last couple weeks. Another book that I read, and I did it backwards. I watched the TV series first, and then I read the book, was Good Omens by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett. And Good Omens is, it's wonderful. I'm completely obsessed with it. But Good Omens is about the end of the world. It's about the fact that Armageddon is about to happen. The Antichrist has been born. He's being raised. He's about to come into his powers and begin the final battle between heaven and hell. And Aziraphale, an angel, and Crowley, a demon, really, really don't want this to happen. They've been on Earth since the very beginning. Aziraphale was the guardian of the Eastern Gate and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil way back in the Garden of Eden. And Crowley was actually the demon to tempt Eve to eat the apple. And they've been on Earth ever since. So they've sort of grown away from heaven and hell, and they've thrown in their lot with humanity. And they don't want the world to end. They don't want people to die. They don't want everything to be all heaven or all hell. They want to keep living their lives the way they've gotten used to it. So they hatch a really foolproof plan to make sure the Armageddon doesn't happen. Their plan is to help raise the Antichrist so that he's not evil. He's just a normal kid, and maybe he will completely reject the whole idea. The problem with that plan is that when Crowley delivered the Antichrist to the hospital, the nurses who were supposed to switch the Antichrist out with the American diplomat's baby, they get it all mixed up and they send the wrong baby. They send a baby that's not the Antichrist home with the ambassador, and the Antichrist goes off with someone else and nobody knows where he is. So they lose the Antichrist, and they spend 11 years trying to influence and raise a kid who is not the Antichrist. Anyway, it gets even more complicated than that as they frantically try to make sure that the apocalypse doesn't happen. But it's a story about choices and destiny, and it's really fun. I enjoyed it a lot. That's an understatement. I'm obsessed with it. The third book that I read is You Asked for Perfect by Laura Silverman. And this book, it was in the young adult romance section, and I'm not 100% sure that's fair. There's some romance in it, sure, but that's not like the focus. So the main character is Ariel Stone. He is he's a senior in high school, and he's got two things on his mind: being valedictorian and getting into Harvard. Those are his two things that he wants more than anything, and it's what he's completely focused on. Until he fails a calculus quiz. And this sends him into a bit of a crisis because he's never failed anything before. His counselor recommends that he find a tutor to help him get the hard parts of calculus. So he ends up asking, they're not really friends, but they've known each other for a long time. He ends up asking Amir to help him out. And Amir and Ariel hit it off pretty well, and they start seeing each other, which is only really a problem because Ariel has so much other stuff going on. He's got his really tough advanced placement classes, college applications and interviews to do. He's first chair in the orchestra, and he has to learn a difficult new solo. His friend Suk wants him to play in her band, and he's got so many things piling up on him that he starts to spiral, and he starts to push people away. And he's convinced that he's the only person that this is happening to, that he is floundering and failing and drowning, and everyone else has their stuff together, and he doesn't know how. How do they have all their stuff together and he doesn't? And he starts to freak out that he's faking it, and that he's not as smart as he thought he was, and he's not going to be as successful as he hoped he would be. And what I loved about this story is that I feel like everyone goes through a period like that in their lives, and maybe multiple periods like that, when you look around and you look at your friends, or you look at your parents or your neighbors or whoever, and you look around and you think, man, they all have it together. They all know what they're doing. They're doing it the right way. They're adulting, or they're, being good students, and I just can't do it. This is too much. And I really liked it. Like I said, it was in the romance section. I think that that's not fair. The romance is there, but it's not like the focus. It's just one of the things that's making Ariel's life more difficult, is this relationship he's trying to have with Amir. And it's not going well because he's freaking out. Anyway, it's time for me to get the books back to the library so I don't have to pay a fine. But I will try to make a couple more videos before the end of the summer. See you guys later.